All right. Well, welcome to the Big Brag Town Hall. We did this once already, and we're going to do it again to answer any questions you may have. And this time we prepared some slides that we can go over. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through kind of where you should be at before the ride, getting to the ride, go through a day in the life of the ride, go over some helpful tips, and then at the end we will answer any questions you may have. So Big Brag is going to be this June 3rd through the 10th, and we're going to go from Clayton all the way down to Augusta. We're going to cover roughly 400 miles. The route is subject to change, so that number is not final. And it's going to be a great week. But before we get to Brag, you got to be ready. So the first thing you need to do to get ready is to have a bike. A lot of people ask, what kind of bike do I need? And the vast majority of cyclists ride regular road bike for sure. But there's a growing number of folks who ride e-bikes. We've had fixed gear bikes, tandems, mountain bikes, fat bikes, you name it. We even had a guy that skated it last year. So any kind of wheels that are going to get you on the road, you can bring. So with that bike, I think the most important thing is having a proper fit. So make sure that you know your bike, know how it rides, know how to change the gears, know how it feels after 50 miles or so. And that is probably the most important thing around your actual bike, is just knowing and being comfortable with your bike. That being said, also good to know how to change a tire. If you come unprepared and don't know how to change your tire, don't worry, because we're going to have an educational class one day that week that will get you up to speed on changing a tire. And then the next big question about getting ready for the ride is training. And I like to say with training, it's the more the merrier. The more you prepare, the more miles you get under your belt, the more comfortable you are doing multi-day riding, the better. I've done a ton of rides where I knew that it was going to be very hilly, lots of miles, and I prepared my butt off, and I was out there cycling, multiple times a week, putting in, just hundreds and hundreds of miles before the ride, and that made the ride so much more pleasant for me. I've also done a number of rides where I go and have not been on the bike very much at all. And it's still fun, but it's definitely a little bit more difficult. And I'm cursing myself on some of the hills, knowing that I could have been in better shape. So also with training, the thing I want to focus on too is a lot of people will go out on a Saturday and ride 60 miles and then think they're ready for the ride. I think that is very important to be able to do. But I think even more so important is focusing on the multi-day aspect of riding. So getting out riding, after work, putting in maybe 30, 40 miles when it gets a little bit lighter for longer outside, then riding Friday, Saturday, Sunday as well, just so your body can adjust to being on the bike for a long period of time for multiple days in a row. There's things that are kind of going to come up about the comfort of your seat. Maybe you need an adjustment with your handlebar angle. There's many things that come to light for riding for multiple days that don't necessarily come to light by just getting out there and crushing a single day ride. So I would say, if you put in around 500 miles or more, that's definitely a good baseline to feel prepared for riding Big Brag. So the next thing people have in terms of logistical challenges, not really a challenge, but a lot of people think the ride is more logistically difficult than it really is. And the first thing people come across is actually getting to the ride. So in getting to the ride, we have multiple different options. The first of which is Bragg has shuttles that you can purchase. So we are starting in Augusta and going to Clayton. So there's two different options with those shuttles. You can drive your car in Augusta and leave it there on June 3rd, and we'll shuttle you all the way up on June 3rd to Clayton for the start. So then when you ride the entire ride, your car will be there waiting for you at the end in Augusta. The second option is you can drive to Clayton and start the ride. So you drive there on June 3rd. First day of riding is actually June 4th. So you would ride all the way down, end in Augusta on June the 10th. And then we would take you on the shuttle all the way back to Clayton to where your car is. So depending on where you live geographically, if you live up north, you may want to have your car at the end, or vice versa. If you live down south, in Florida, you might want to just end the ride and be able to start your trip back home from Augusta, which is going to be closer to Florida. So really just looking at geographically where you are, you might be able to pick out which shuttle you want to take. The other thing is we do offer daily shuttles and midweek shuttles. So a lot of people will choose to just participate for 3 days and they have questions about how to get to and from the first 3 days, the second 3 days. So we actually have a ride, or excuse me, a shuttle that will take you from the midpoint, Brazelton, all the way back to Clayton. And then we have another shuttle at the end of the ride that will take you on June 10th from Augusta all the way back to Brazelton. So those are our Bragg Light shuttles. And then some folks just want to join us for a day, and that is, you're more than welcome to do that. And we have daily shuttles that will run back one town every day. It'll just run back to where we started that day. So you can come, ride the ride, at the end of the day, hop on the shuttle, and it'll take you back to your car where we started at the beginning of the day. Other options for getting to the ride, if you have a lovely spouse or a friend or a loved one, they can drop you off at the beginning and pick you up at the end. Groom transportation is another option if you're coming from out of town. And interestingly enough, depending on where you live, we've actually had quite a number of people ride to the start and ride from the end. So depending on where you live, that may be an option if you're more adventurous. All right, so actually getting into the logistics of the ride itself, our first day of the ride is going to be in Clayton. So we are going to arrive on June 3rd, but we are not going to ride that actual day. That's just our arrival day. So when you get there, you are going to get registered. You are going to grab your ride guide. And our ride guide is really what we use is the Bible for the week for us. So what that includes is it has a schedule of every single day, has food options, where the food options are going to be and what they are, maps of not only our routes where we're going to be, but also our overnight towns, where food is, where restrooms are, where showers are, and also things to do in the entertainment options for each town. So you'll get that ride guide. That'll be available in May with all the details. It takes quite a while to get all those details in one place, but once we get them, we'll send that out to you digitally via email, and then we'll also get a printed copy when you get there on site. And then after you get the ride guide, we are going to have a first timers meeting. We have one on June 3rd, and we also have one on the morning of June 4th before we start riding. Here we're going to go over the week in a whole. We talk about wayfinding, we talk about safety and SAG, answer any questions you may have, any burning questions before we start the ride. So definitely try and make that first timers meeting if you've never done a Bragg ride or never done Big Bragg. Then on June 3rd, a lot of people forget stuff. You forgot a toothbrush, you forgot deodorant, whatever it may be. We'll have shuttles that'll run to Walmart so you can pick up anything. There's a bike shop on site, so if your bike needs a little tune up right before we leave, you're certainly welcome to do that. And then the last thing to do in Clayton is to just enjoy yourself. You know, there's a number of different restaurants. We'll have food vendors on site. We'll have some entertainment options in downtown Clayton. It's a really beautiful city to check out and to walk around. So enjoy yourself while you're there. And then we will go to bed in whatever different accommodation options you have chosen. So let's talk about the different accommodation options. So we offer outdoor camping, indoor camping, a number of different things, and we'll kind of walk through all of them very quickly. So on Bragg, what's included in your ride is outdoor camping. So you can bring your own gear, your own tent, sleeping bag, air mattress, etc. And you can set that up every morning, and that'll be your spot for the day, or after your ride, excuse me. So you would set up and break down your own tent, and we will actually move your gear from town to town. So when you wake up, put your gear on the baggage truck, we'll move it to the next town for you. So when you ride your bike there, your gear will be waiting for you there. The next option is indoor camping. This is a pretty popular option, which is you sleep inside. So I like to tell folks it looks like a refugee camp. We've got some pictures of it for you in a second. And again, this is you with all your own gear, and you'd be setting it up and breaking it down yourself, but you do have the benefit of AC, which is great. Only drawback is you're in a large open room. So if anybody's snoring or there happens to be a light on, an emergency light that doesn't go off, you know, bringing a sleep mask, excuse me, and some earplugs is definitely a great idea. Next thing is a little bit more premium service. There's a tent service by Padres, and what they do for you is they're going to set up your tent for you, put your bags in there, put an air mattress in there for you. So all you have to do is show up, ride your bike to the next town, and your tent, your bags are going to be in your tent, the tent that they provide for you, set it up, break it down every day. So you're not having to set up and break down every day. It's a really nice perk. They'll also have some camping chairs, some fans, and some snacks and some drinks for you as well at the end of each day. So that's definitely a plus. Probably the most premium and awesome thing that we have, it's a new addition this year, is called the snooze box. So if it were me, I would pick the snooze box personally. It's a large mobile hotel trailer that you could stay in. So you would move into a hotel room that's inside of a mobile trailer, and then that will move every single day. So then you don't have to set up or break down any of your stuff. You just walk out the door, close it, and that whole room will move to the next location and be there waiting for you. It's got AC, locking doors, your own lighting, charging, and you can sleep up to 5 people in there to split that expense. So that's definitely the most luxe option that we have. Next, a lot of folks choose to stay in hotels. So hotels, that's obviously an added expense, but you are more than welcome to do that. We have shuttles that will get you from the overnight site to the hotel every afternoon, as well as back to camp in the morning. So the only hotels that we service with shuttles on Bragg are the ones that are going to be listed on the Bragg website. So if you go on Bragg, Big Bragg Accommodations, all the hotels are listed there. Those always sell out every year. So if you have not booked your hotels yet, I would definitely suggest booking your hotel for that. And the last option we have for accommodations is RVs. A number of people will bring their own RV. This is great. You can get a private vehicle registration, and we've got designated area for you to park that RV. We don't provide hookups or anything of that nature, but we do have a designated spot for you to park at each location. The only other thing about that is you will need someone, obviously, to drive the RV from one location to the next. So again, if you've got a friend or a lovely spouse, or you want to pay a high school student or something to drag your RV for the week, that is certainly an option as well. Okay, so indoor camping. This is what indoor camping looks like. Pretty tight quarters depending on the location. I know that our first stop, Clayton, is going to be tight in terms of indoor camping. Madison may be a little tight, but the rest of the locations will be able to spread out a little bit more than what you see pictured here. So that's definitely an option. There's AC at every one of those locations, which is great. And indoor camping comes with some perks. All the indoor folks typically get into some sort of shenanigans. So you're welcome to make friends in that indoor camping, and you'll be sleeping next to the same folks all week. So that's always a fun time. Outdoor camping pictured here is, you bring your own tent, you set it up, and have a great time all week. Again, you're going to be with most of the same folks all week at outdoor camping. So that is definitely an option for you. So with outdoor camping and indoor camping, this is after we unload the baggage truck every day. There's kind of a little bit of a hunt every day to find your bags, but we do split up the baggage trucks into indoor and outdoor camping. So depending on where you're camping is depending on where your bags, which truck they're going to be in. So definitely a little bit of a hunt for your bag, but that's all part of the fun at the end of the day. Outdoor camping, ton of fun. If you've never experienced or gotten into it, this is definitely a good time to start and try it out. So this is a picture of Padres. This is where they set up the tent for you. I think with them, you've got a couple different tent options in terms of sizing. Definitely a little bit, living higher on the hog there, where you don't have to set up or break down any of your stuff, which is definitely great. This is a picture of the snooze box. So this is an accommodation option that's new for this year. So you can see you can fit 3 people in a bed. We've got a couch there that will convert to a bed, and then we've got a trundle that can slide out where you can fit another person if you want to. And you can just go, you see the URL at the top, snoozebox.co. You can go there, and we still have a few rooms left for Bragg for this year. So own dedicated AC, own room, definitely a lot better than shuttling to the hotels, packing up and packing down your stuff every day. All right, so after you figure out your accommodations, we'll get into the day of the life here. So the first day of riding, depending on your accommodations, you're going to wake up and throw your bags on the baggage truck. So if you're doing indoor or outdoor camping, you want to make sure your bags are on the baggage truck. The 8 a.m. is the deadline for that. So if you sleep in a little bit late, we have some extra time for you to get your bags on there. If you're doing, Padres or the snooze box or an RV, obviously you're not responsible for your own bags, but indoor outdoor camping, you want to make sure your bags are on the truck by 8 a.m. Next thing you want to do is the first thing I always do in the morning and sometimes in the evening is grab a cup of coffee. We have Cafe Campesino. They travel with us every single day. They sell a wristband at the beginning of the week, which is entitles you to free endless coffee all week. So definitely pick that up at the beginning and make sure you got your hot coffee first thing in the morning. We'll also have food every day before you leave. Food will typically start around 5:30 in the morning and go until 8. Get a bite to eat before you hit the road. And then every morning we will have a mass start at 7 a.m. Couple things about the mass start. We really encourage folks to try and make the mass start, primarily because this year we're going through some busier spots, specifically Gainesville, and we organize a police escort out of every single town every morning. So last year in Gainesville, it was great. That's a pretty big city, pretty busy city. They have something like 19 officers. They were able to usher us out of the city that day. Only if you were there for the mass start. So they got us all out in one big clump until we got onto some of the more rural back roads. Definitely highly suggest that. Without that, we will have officers at busier intersections and things of that nature. But just when they're stopping and closing down intersections, it's a much safer way to get out of town. We're not mucking up traffic, and we can all get out and pretty much one good shot there. So after we get out on the road, wayfinding is you're definitely going to want to be familiar with that. We have 4 different ways to prevent you from getting lost. The first of which is our cue sheets. This is really the most fail-proof way to navigate for the week. The cue sheets are going to be printed in the ride guide that you're going to get a physical copy of every day. And those routes will not change once they are printed. So the great thing about that is nobody can change those. Unlike road markings and signs, which are other ways we have to prevent you from getting lost. We've had folks go out there and move our signs or spray paint over our road markings in the past. So definitely keep, what a lot of people will do, will tear out the cue sheets out of the book, those few pages for that day, and carry them with them on their bike. Great idea. But also we do put up signs at every single turn. As you can see, the little orange arrow there, we have one of those at every single turn. The road markings, our little brag hash down there, we put those before, at, and after every single turn. And again, we'll go over that a little bit more at the first timers meeting when we're actually at the ride, but there's 3 of those for every single turn on the route. And then we also provide GPS routing through an app called Ride with GPS. We pay for a club membership, so you can actually get free turn-by-turn directions on your phone. Blue dot will be on the red line, and she'll yell at you and tell you if you get off route, or she'll tell you, make a left, or you're coming up on the left. That's a really good resource. And what I'll do is I'll keep that in my pocket. If I find that I get turned around or I get lost, I'll pull that out, and she will get me back on track pretty quickly there. So multiple ways to keep you on the route while we're out there. So then while we're out on the road, we are going to be covering about 40 to 70 miles every day. So there's one pretty short day this year, and then there's one pretty long day at about 70 miles this day. All the rest of them are high 50s, low 60s. So that's what we're going to be covering every day, except for the one day in the middle where we don't ride. We have a layover day. We will have an option to ride that day, but that's not a required ride day because we're not moving overnight towns that day. Other things to look out for out on the road, we're going to have rest stops. So there's going to be, depending on the length of the route, we'll have 3 to 4 rest stops every day. They're going to have peanut butter jelly sandwiches, pimento cheese, watermelon, snacks, chips, cookies, you name it. They're also going to have water and Powerade for you to get you refueled and back on the route. We're also going to have SAG out on the route. So we have motorcycle medics, we have and a number of volunteers who are going to be out there to get you back on the road. If you have a mechanical issue and your derailleur falls off, you need a ride in, or if you have, you bonk for that day and you can't make it, or you have a medical issue, you're cramping or whatever it may be, we will have SAG support out there. Everyone's going to have a wristband, and it's going to have a phone number on there that will ring directly to SAG. We like to caution people, this isn't, it's not an Uber service. If you don't feel like riding, it's really for when you have, a medical issue or a mechanical issue that you can't resolve yourself. And also things to note out on the road is that this is a rules of the road event. So we are stopping at stop signs, stopping at stoplights, yielding, riding as far to the right as we can. It's reasonable, riding no more than 2 abreast, and following all the rules of the road like a normal vehicle would on the road. A couple notes about traffic is we stay on some of the most rural roads that we can find. We talk to local cyclists to figure out the best routes to get from place to place. work with city and law enforcement to figure out the best ways to get in and out of town. But that being said, when you're covering nearly 400 miles and you're going through some bigger cities, there are going to be some bigger intersections, bigger stretches of road where we will be, sharing the road with vehicles. And some of those roads will get busy from time to time. We try and cut that down as much as we can, but that's just inevitable with a 400-mile route. We also like to route us through different points of interest. So last year we were able to have rest stops at over 14 different farms along the route, which is really cool. That was our theme for the year. So we like to stop at different businesses, that are interesting to cyclists, different, historical markers, different points of interest along the way, so you can take some photos and really get the most out of the route, not just, the starting and end point for every day. And what I always like to tell people is it's a ride, not a race. So stop along the way, smell the roses, really enjoy yourself. You're gonna pass through some really picturesque places. And if everybody's got a camera on their phone now. So I will frequently stop and take pictures, stop and talk to local folks at a small little country store. There's just endless opportunities to have additional fun along the route if you're a little outgoing and agree to stop and smell the roses along the way. So this is a picture of one of our noble SAG drivers. He outfits his truck every year to just be the best SAG driver we have. If you'll notice, he has some yellow flags on the back of the vehicle there. So all our SAG vehicles will have those little flags. And most of them will have magnets on the side of the cars now. I know a lot of cars are now made out of aluminum, so magnets don't stick, unfortunately. But they'll all have those little flags on the side of the car to let you know that those are our SAG vehicles. So then after the ride, so post-ride, when you get back, you're going to be nice and sweaty. In June, it does get pretty warm. So the first thing you're probably going to want to do is grab a shower. So we're going to have two 18-stall shower trucks at each location. So that should really cut down on our shower social or linear socialization time. So you wouldn't have to wait too long for any of the showers, which would be great. Also, when you get done the ride, and your phone's probably going to be pretty drained. So we actually have a charging station that's going to be in our registration trailer every day. You're going to be able to lock your phone in there, and that's going to be able to charge. We're going to leave that on overnight. So if you need to charge your phone overnight, you're more than welcome to. Or if you're doing indoor camping, you can just charge your phone indoors. So restrooms, we'll have indoor locations. Those are obviously going to have restrooms as well as portalets for outdoor campers. And then once you get off the bike, you're probably going to want to get into some fun. So every day, we have a yoga class offered, which is great to stretch out, some of those sore muscles after riding pretty long distances. Yoga is definitely a great way to get prepared for the next day's ride and kind of relax from the current day's ride. We'll have educational classes. There'll be a menu of classes offered, typically one every day, covering everything from changing tires to first aid to long distance bike packing. Excuse me. So different options on educational classes every day. Then there'll be shuttles at every location. Shuttles are going to take you to the hotels if you're staying at a hotel. They're also going to take you into the downtown area, take you to different restaurants or different places around town that each town wants to highlight. So definitely take advantage of that, hop on those. Sometimes we'll be directly in the downtown area, so it's just a quick walk. In Brazelton, for instance, we're staying right downtown, so there's no need to take a shuttle downtown because it's literally right across the street. Other places like Clarksville, we'll have a quick 10-minute shuttle ride to town where you can check out the restaurants and the bands and everything we have going on for you downtown. So that being said, each town will have a plethora of entertainment. So what we'll have there is a listing in the ride guide. Each town will have, a menu of options where they'll have, a downtown historic tour. They'll have rafting option. They're putting together really cool stuff in Brazelton. Again, they're doing like a wine and chocolate tour where you're going to stop by 3 or 4 different restaurants and try wine and chocolate at each one. So each town will put together a suite of entertainment options for us each night, which is going to be great. So this is nightly entertainment from last year. We had an 80s cover band in downtown Carrollton, and that was a big hit. Everybody got dressed up in 80s gear that evening. Sometimes there's swimming pools, splash pads, good way to cool off after a long day's ride. Definitely a lot of fun stuff to do. Sometimes there'll be movies, towns will organize movies at night that we can check out. This was in Cave Spring, was a cool stop. They had, this is a cave, or excuse me, a lake that's fed from a river that comes out of a cave. This was called Cave Spring, which is a really cool place, actually, a cave we could visit too. And then usually every night we'll have, a couple bands playing in the downtown area. So you can go down there, grab a bite to eat, and check out some pretty good music. And that's it for a day in the life of. And I put the slide in here to tell you, buy the ticket, take the ride. Bragg is an adventure, and a lot of the fun is figuring it out. A lot of the fun is meeting new people, asking new questions. And really, if you come to Bragg with a great attitude, you're going to have a great time. There's so many people that have done this ride 30 years in a row. There are grandparents that have their kids on the ride that also are pulling their grandkids in a trailer. I mean, it's such a great event, and with the right attitude. It certainly is a challenge physically, mentally, but it's also just so rewarding and so much fun to accomplish, a big physical feat like riding your bike across an entire state. And just the people you meet is really the bonus, and the community that we form along the way is really what makes it special and keeps people coming back year after year. And get out of your comfort zone. A lot of people will do this ride and kind of stick to their hanging out with the same people, doing the same thing every night. But I would encourage you to definitely get outside your comfort zone and take some chances on the ride, and it's definitely very rewarding. So now what I'm going to do is open it up to some questions. And while I'm opening up the questions, I'll have Stephanie drop those questions in the chat, and I will read them and answer them as best I can. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them on the Zoom chat or the Facebook link, and Stephanie will put those in the chat box for me. But before that, I'll drop some pro tips while she's compiling a list of questions. So pro tip number one for me is pack half of what you think you'll need. I always pack way too much stuff, and I ended up lugging around my big bag from place to place. So what I like to do is bring half the clothes, wash half the clothes midweek, which is a great way to cut down on half of the big bulk. And then the rest of the things, if I forget something, I can pick it up along the way. There's plenty of, Walmarts and corner stores and, boutiques along the way. If I forget something, I can pick it up, but always just bring about half of what I need, because I always bring way too much. Second pro tip here is to bring earplugs and eye masks for indoor camping. Like I said, there's a ton of snoozers, and sometimes lights will stay on for a long time. So definitely bring some of those. And then with charging, everybody's got 50 devices this day, from your watch to your cell phone to your GPS, and people even have to charge their e-bikes and their Di2s these days. So pro tip around that is to bring a surge protector. So if you're doing indoor camping, the outlets are pretty hot commodities. So if there's two already plugged in, what you can do is unplug one, plug in a surge protector, and then put their item back on your surge protector, and then you've got 5 or 6 more outlets for folks to use, which is nice, and those can definitely support charging a number of different cell phones. Fourth pro tip is definitely book snooze box. Your life will be so much easier just living in and out of the same room all week, not having to pack up or pack down. And whoever you're staying with, you'll be great friends by the end of the week for sure. Another pro tip, if you've never done this ride, or you're thinking about it, you're on the fence, is to get on our Facebook group, which is just Bicycle Ride Across Georgia on Facebook. And that's a great community. Any question you ask on there, you'll typically get a ton of different answers from veterans and folks who have done the ride year after year. Another pro tip is reading the actual ride guide. This would solve so many issues. We have the ride. Here's what I'm holding up right here is a ride guide. These will answer 99% of your questions. And then we are there to answer any other questions you have over and above that. But if you read this book, what most people will do will whip it out and read the next day's route, activities, schedule, whatnot, and they're going to have all their answers or questions answered. Also, take a look at the maps. Then we have overnight maps for each location that kind of shows the layout, so you can get oriented to where you're staying the next day. Next pro tip is to shower at off-peak times. You know, we get a lot of linear socialization on these rides, but it can be your friend. It's an opportunity to meet someone. But if you choose to do some of the things at off-peak times where you get back, you want to run by the beer tent first and hang out for a little bit before you go shower. Your shower line is going to be a little less long if you do it that way. Another thing, and this is just a rule for life for me, but works on a lot of these road trips. And if you're not into long distance cycling yet, or you're getting into it, cheap is expensive. Bike shorts, you know, if you pick up a $20 pair of bike shorts, that's going to cause you so many issues in the long run, where you're going to end up having to invest in a better pair, and you're going to be, you know, cursing yourself because of saddle sores. So definitely you want to be spendy on some things around the bike, and bike shorts is one of them. Bike parts, phone holders, you know, you buy a cheap phone holder, your phone holder or your phone may come out of that holder and be on the ground. Bike lights, you know, the batteries don't last long. Helmets, that's one of the best investments you can make. You definitely don't want to be riding around in a cheap helmet. Definitely want to spend some money there to get something that has MIPS that's going to keep your head as safe as possible in the event of a crash. And tents and gear, all that stuff. Just cheap is expensive. So if you're going to buy it once and use it for a week, that's one thing. But if you actually plan on investing in some of these tours and doing a lot of these tours, it's worth it to spend the money on some of this gear and really build up a catalog of gear so you're more comfortable for the ride. Another thing is, the more prepared you are, the more fun you're going to have. So this just really comes into training. So as it starts to get warmer outside, at least here in Georgia, it's starting to get warmer and starting to get light, a little bit longer outside. Really take advantage of that and get as many training miles in as you can. Because like I said, the more you train, the more fun you're going to have on the ride, I promise you. And then lastly, pro tip is to bring a bike lock. A lot of folks don't, and they just leave their, you know, very expensive bikes sitting out. We definitely suggest you bring a lock, and that will help you sleep a lot more soundly for sure. So those are my pro tips for Bragg, and surely I have plenty more, so you can certainly reach out or send us an email offline and we can get to you.